this event has been going on for 43 years
hmm
in our community. And I think that really says a lot to the legacy that it holds and the weight that it bestows upon just a center of celebration for King Day.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Today is Martin Luther King Day, the annual federal holiday commemorating the slain civil rights leader. Today also marks the 43rd gathering of the Martin Luther King March and Rally in Seattle, where thousands of people meet at Garfield High School for a day of workshops and events, then march along Seattle streets to honor Dr. King's legacy and keep alive his dream of justice, freedom, and equality for all people. United Way of King County is proud to partner with the Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Organizing Coalition each year in support of the March and Rally. For this week's episode of Hourglass, we sat down with Shaude Moore, chair of the Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Organizing Coalition, and Alexis Silva, United Way's Senior Community and Volunteer Engagement Manager, for a conversation about the March and Rally, the Coalition's partnership with United Way, and our efforts to keep people engaged in community-centered events well after Martin Luther King Day. We will also discuss our upcoming free tax preparation campaign and a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. The Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Organizing Coalition held its first March and Rally in 1983, the same year federal lawmakers signed legislation making the third Monday in January a national holiday in remembrance of the slain civil rights leader. Since then, it seems as if the March and Rally have often coincided with moments in history that have shed light on justice and inequality in our country. In 1995, the Seattle March and Rally was held the same year that the U.S. Department of Labor's Glass Ceiling Commission reported that Asian Americans were paid less than whites in many job categories, despite having more work experience and higher levels of education. In 1999, the march came as the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights reported to then-President Clinton that the federal government's failure to eliminate racial discrimination in health care created health disparities among racial groups. In 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic didn't stop the March and Rally, which was held amid worldwide cries against racism and police brutality following the death of George Floyd at the hands of law enforcement in Minneapolis the previous summer. Last year's march fell on the same day as the presidential inauguration, which followed a general election that sowed seeds of discord in an already polarized nation. That brings us to this year's January 19th March and Rally, which, as usual, will be held at Garfield High School in Seattle. As usual, organizers won't announce the march route until the day of the event for safety reasons. The March and Rally will once again cap a weekend of activities, including a youth impact forum, an employment and resource opportunity fair, and workshops. And the march will once again coincide with the moment that has shed light on injustice and inequality in our country. On the Friday before the March and Rally, students at Garfield High School staged a walkout and demonstration to protest recent actions among members of Federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. The Garfield High protests are similar to those being held across the country since the killing of Renee Nicole Good, a mother of three who was fatally shot by an ICE officer in Minneapolis on January 7th. The Renee Nicole Good tragedy and other recent headlines involving ICE activity will undoubtedly be on the minds of many at the January 19th March and Rally, as many local nonprofit organizations have since spoken out against brutality at the hands of law and customs enforcement. They include United Way of King County grantees Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network, Asian Counseling and Referral Service, and Red Eagle Soaring. On its social media sites, Asian Counseling and Referral Service urged people to remain committed to advocating for policies that protect the safety, stability, and well-being of all vulnerable communities. At United Way of King County, we work for racial justice by building relationships to transform inequitable systems so that all people may thrive. We work to change systems that cause inequities through our programmatic work and our advocacy agenda. And United Way is proud to partner with and support the Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Organizing Coalition's March and Rally event. We lend our time and our resources to oversee and support activities such as the March and Rally's volunteer program and the Opportunity Fair. And we offer ways for people to stay involved beyond Martin Luther King Day. 2 days after the March and Rally, United Way will host a virtual lunch and learn session on continuing community-centered service in real and tangible ways. On the eve of Monday's March and Rally, Hourglass sat down with Shaude Moore, chair of the Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Organizing Coalition, and Alexis Silva, United Way Senior Community and Volunteer Engagement Manager, for a conversation about the March and Rally and United Way's impact. We began with Shaude, who spoke on what the March and Rally mean to the city of Seattle and the Puget Sound region.
Everything. And I say that because every year we get anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 people that turn out for this event. We get people who travel in from like the Olympia area, people who travel from up north, eastern, kind of on the east side of Seattle as well. And we have so many folks who reach out to us via email or phone call that want to know about how they can get involved. We have the universities, we have, community colleges, we have politicians, clergy in community, you name it. We have community civil rights leaders that reach out. This event has been going on for 43 years in our community. And I think that really says a lot to the legacy that it holds and the weight that it bestows upon just being a center of celebration for King Day. We do have other organizations and businesses that also do events, but I think because this is a Seattle King County-led event, and King County being as it may be so large, there is just a tremendous amount of love that is shown towards the work that we do because of what it stands on. We're grassroots. We have volunteers from all different backgrounds that serve in many capacities in their own businesses and community that come and join our planning meetings just to be a part of what everyone sees on MLK Day. From Opportunity Fair to our workshops, our youth event that's tonight, but we have a youth event every weekend leading to the big event on Monday, and then our March and Rally, and then our community meal as well.
Great. Now, for someone who's done this for more than a dozen years, can you talk about some of the things that you will see at just about every King March every year? And what are some of the things that vary year to year?
Yeah, so something unique, obviously. I mean, before, when I had started with the coalition, then again, it was a celebration committee. We had a youth event, but we did not have interns. The interns were introduced, I want to say, about 6 years ago by way of just an idea from myself and then co-lead Bobby Alexander. And as young people in the organization and young leads, we decided that, okay, well, we need to continue to keep this work going, pass the baton. So our internship program is fairly new and it's something that, I hold very near and dear to my heart. Something else that people will see every year, again, is, our indoor rally, how we have an hour and a half worth of entertainment, speakers, performers that talk to community at Garfield High School on King Day. Our Opportunity Fair is somewhat new as well. It's been well over 6 years since it was introduced to community as well. So our Opportunity Fair, Career Fair is fairly new. Workshops have been the same. However, the caveat is things changed for our community during COVID. So a lot of what we would have seen several years ago where our community meal was in the Commons at Garfield. Now, again, before we had the Opportunity Fair, where it is currently located in the cafeteria of Garfield, we had our community meal. And after the march, we would bus people back up to Garfield and they would eat in that area. Now, we've had to kind of change things up. So we partner with local businesses and food trucks where we feed people right at the end of the downtown rally, wherever that location may be.
Mhm.
So that has been something that has fairly been different in the last couple of years, just how we serve community, which again is unique in itself. You see a lot of our long time standing founders and coalition members, and like I said, community leaders that come to this event. Unfortunately, had to witness some of those leaders take their place with the ancestors. And that's been really hard for us as well. One of the people that we're honoring this year served this organization through leading our food committee for well over 25 years. So, and unfortunately, this past year she had passed. So, that's something that we do every year that we've been doing for some time is we honor and we pay tribute to those that helped, kind of kick off these celebrations and do this work in community. So yeah, that's more or less some of the changes that have taken place over the last eight years or so.
Mhm.
And then again, some of the kind of standing formalities of what our community can expect every year.
So now, can you tell me, when did you make the decision to not let people know the march route until the day of the event?
So since I've actually been chair is when I want
Mhm.
to say started doing that. It could have for the I can't even recall if we were doing that before that.
Mhm.
So since 2018. But another reason being is because I mean we partnered with a variety of different organizations to kind of protect, our community when we do our big march. But I think right now it's even more pivotal because of ICE, right?
Right,
And
right.
just the scrutiny around protecting and keeping our community safe. So, I mean, the decision when we made it years ago, like I said, well, since 2018, it has been a good one. Folks don't find out until the day of, and some don't even find out until we're actually marching.
Mhm.
So it's just one of those things that we tend to safeguard. So that way people understand the gist of it, of why we march to where we march. But again, as of late, it's been even more critical that we protect that information.
And you brought up the issue of ICE, which has been so dominant in the news right now. How do things like that impact your approach to this event?
Every year, take a break to think about what civil unrests are happening. May it be in our nation or even in our own backyard in Seattle.
Mhm.
And typically, we really look to the more bigger issues. Like last year, obviously, MLK Day fell on Inauguration Day, so that
Yes.
just was a little bit odd for us. But then we expected a huge turnout just because of the divide between red and blue.
Mhm.
And we thought hard and heavy on that in 2024. And then that's how we kind of had to think about, okay, what additional details do we need to add to our event in light of the fact that it may be a lot bigger that year? And it's the same thing we're thinking about this year. I think when we take time during our planning meeting to do brainstorming around our theme,
Mhm.
it's like a game. We're taking these words, we're taking these images in our mind, and we're putting them on this virtual board. And we're playing with words, we're playing with scenarios, we're playing with off of the tragedies and the events that are taking place in the nation that we see.
Mhm.
Right. And a lot of our community members, I have one planning member that watches the news religiously. And he can tell you everything that happens within minutes, within the day, exactly what's happening in the news. And those are the things that we're following. Those are the things we're thinking of when we put on our event, but also when we finalize our theme. And then even with the graphics, right, which go into that selection of, okay, we have this theme, and we usually play on words no more than five, and it has to be strong. In our mind, we want to make sure that whatever our theme is, that it is so strong to where it's leaving a lasting impact on our community,
Mhm.
and that it really that we're taking those pictures that we were able to use when we were putting together the words, and we're piecing them together to create this really nice design. So in retrospect, everything from what's happening outside of our country to what's happening like now in Minneapolis, or where it be, anywhere else in the world. we take a lot of that into high consideration. And I think that's what makes this event so big, is that it's bigger than King County, it's bigger than Seattle.
Can you give me a quick bio of you and what prompted you to get involved with this march?
I was born in East St. Louis, Illinois, been in Seattle since I was 7 years old. Came here with a single mom, and from the childhood that I was raised in back in the Midwest, my mom was really just looking for a fresh start. So that was our reasoning for coming here. I had an aunt who lived in the U District, and once my mom got settled, she did not look back. So, um, in a nutshell, I graduated from Decatur High School in Federal Way. And by the time I hit 20, I was working security. And one of the security guards that I was doing my shift with was actually the younger sister of then council member Larry Gossett.
Hmm.
And she told me a little bit about the work that he was doing with the MLK coalition, or then it was the MLK Celebration Committee, before we changed the name in 2018. And I was like, hey, I think you'll be a good fit for this. Why don't you consider, coming to a meeting, getting involved? So that's exactly what I did. And ever since then, I never looked back. Now, keep in mind, that was almost 16 years ago. I have a daughter who just turned 16. So I started getting involved in this work when my firstborn was just a baby. And then kept coming, led several different committees back then. So I led program. Actually, for years, I was leading the program subcommittee, which is now led by our treasurer, Kendra Liddell. But the good part about that is I was able to really hand off a lot of that work, and stepped into more of a leadership role in 2018 as the chair of the Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Organizing Coalition when we did the big split.
Can you talk about what the impact of marches themselves mean to you?
The impact is huge. And my favorite part is always our chants, right? When we get everybody together and we're marching and we're united and in solidarity, we have our allies that come out with their own banners and they're raising awareness around things that, may resonate with their diverse groups. Like, it's so amazing. I was just talking to one of my contractors and we were looking at pictures. I was trying to go and look back and look at pictures of marches that have happened in Seattle, like when Reverend McKinney was around, he brought Dr. King to Seattle in November of 1961. I think about the history of when the organization marked its 40th anniversary, right? And our organization marked its 40th anniversary. We actually did an event with NAM because NAM had reopened on King Day the same year as our 40th anniversary. So we had an exhibit there and it showed over the span of like 40 plus years, all the marches that have happened in Seattle, where we went, the different signs, the different themes, the different colors, the people that will show up from all different races, all different backgrounds. And I think it's like one of those single things that really unite us as one. Because whether or not you are marching for something that has happened over on the East Coast or in the South, we realize when we march, we're all in this together. And that's like the takeaway is we are in this together.
Great. And I want you to think of all the years that you've been a part of this. What moments just stay in your mind and make you say, this is the reason why we do this every year?
I will say there was a year, I want to say it was post-COVID. If I can recall, it was post-COVID. And we were marching through the Central District area. And there were some disturbances where we had people who weren't marching with us try to attack some of the people on the march. And when I say attack, I don't mean like they ran up on them, but they were watching us march and they were like yelling out slurs. Everybody that was in the march literally came together, right, to shut this person down. And it happened twice in that same day. where we were marching and we would stop. This is when we were stopping and having small rallies at different places that raised issues or concerns within our community. So like we would stop at like the hospital. We made like several stops this year on our way to like the actual final rally downtown.
Hmm.
And like I said, we would have people that would come and try to create tension or divide us. And in the midst of that attempted division, like I said, there was this unity. And for me, it was really just watching. I mean, you had all types of people from all different backgrounds really like standing up for what we were marching for in the midst of everything that was happening towards this person. I don't want to say that anybody necessarily felt unsafe, but it was like, not today. You're not going to try us today. And with that, like I said, that's when we came together and we were able to shut that person down. And then, like I said, it happened again. So it was twice. And then there was a time where we were marching and Seattle Police Department wanted to stop us from marching. I think true story. And this was a couple years ago. And we were marching to the federal building at this time. And they had choppers, they were on their horns and they were yelling for us to stop or to like basically follow what we say or we're going to stop the marching. And in the midst of all of that, again, we were very unified. Now, our marches every year are peaceful, peaceful protests. And just to get the police to understand that, like, we're protesting in our streets peacefully, we're not causing any sort of disturbance. And we do work with the city so that the city knows the route as well. So it was very interesting to see all those things unfold all like within a matter of like an hour, where we had the individuals trying to attack the march through those slurs, and then we had the police trying to stop us from marching. And it was like, what's going on? But at the same time, it was just great to see us unified. I've said this before, and Alexis knows this. This MLK work is not for the weak. And while our event is always family friendly, I think I would be wrong if I were to say that we're never thinking about the what ifs, right? The what if ICE tries to show up, the what if we get these people who try to create disturbances and, it's chaotic. So I hold on to the promise that things will always go as planned, but there's always that moment where we don't see the whole picture and we just got to be ready. So that's also what our planning leads up to. And I'm really honored this year that our logistics team has been on multiple calls, doing research, trying to figure out like what are our rights. We know our rights, but what are they in the midst of like how we can continue to protect our community and how can we work with different groups to make sure that nobody feels like they're going to be attacked or they're going to be pulled away from their family.
Thank you so much, Shaude Moore. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you both again.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, Alexis, can you just talk about the involvement of United Way of King County and why this event means so much to us and why it's so impactful to the community?
This event has been something that we've partnered with since around 2017, and we have grown exponentially in the amount of participation that we've taken in the event. This is something that goes far beyond my years. This is going to actually be my third year of participating with the event. But we have a wonderful staff person at United Way, Leanne Bannerman, who is the person who led the work partnering with the coalition and making it a part of our history and a part of our strategic planning and like annual planning. And it's been an event that really shows that we are committed to our communities and we're committed to showing up and using the resources and tools that we have available to uplift the work. I think that this event is a perfect example of how we're committed, like I said, to showing up, but not like overtaking the event. I think there could have been a lot of opportunities or ways where United Way could have just created their own event and decided to make something else and do something with one of our other company partners or something like that. But there was a choice that was made to not do that and to really just put all of our hands into uplifting an event that already existed and partnering with our community members to really strengthen and broaden the scope of how this event is showing up here in King County and in the community. And that's a really wonderful thing. I really value the work that we've been able to do because all the way back from 2017 to all the way now, we've been able to support fully the entire volunteer program that exists within the march and this huge event that happens on the day. So we oversee all of the recruitment of the volunteers. We handle the check-in and the procedures. This year we added the Know Before You Go session and overtook that to ensure that volunteers feel ready when they show up for the day. And we basically help oversee all the operations that are happening inside the gymnasium, which looks like that opportunity fair, resume room, the workshops, and then obviously the volunteer section. So it's a really exciting opportunity and it's a really exciting event. And it's just a good way to be in community and let them be the stars. That's what I love about it and love about the history and how United Way is choosing to show up.
Right. And then on Wednesday, 2 days after the march, United Way has an event of its own around volunteerism. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So a part of supporting the big MLK Day of Service event with the coalition, we understand that there's also an opportunity to take it a step further. It's one thing to show up, but then it's a whole other thing to make it a continued learning opportunity. And that's exactly what we're doing. So every year we host a lunch and learn, and there are many various topics that have happened over the years. But this year specifically, we're going to be focused on shared responsibility and designing community-centered services. And we're going to be joined by our partner, a consultant that United Way works with, Brianna Perilous from Connecting the Cause in Atlanta. And she'll be hosting the workshop to help people think a little bit more about how they can move beyond individual roles and think more into shared responsibility and how we can shape the future together. And I think it's just a perfect testament. I really leaned in and helped choose the topic to bring to this lunch and learn because I really wanted people to think about the value of not always creating something new, but doing something in community and sharing that responsibility and sharing that space and uplifting people who are doing the work and already doing it well. And that's how we want our volunteers to kind of show up and be in community. So this workshop is going to go all into that topic. It's really going to engage people in guided reflection. There's going to be dialogue and learn about how we can just continue to show up with care and accountability and really center, humility and community. And I'm very excited because Brianna is a very talented, thoughtful person, and she's going to bring a really good conversation to the table. I know that. That's going to be on January 21st at 10 a.m. here in Seattle time, and it's a virtual lunch and learn. So if people want to join, they can check out our website and look at the Celebrating Dr. King Legacy tab, and there you'll be able to find the link to the Eventbrite to sign up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexis. Really appreciate you and your time.
Yes, thank you, Joe.
For more information about the Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. Organizing Coalition and about today's march and rally, log on to seattlemlkcoalition.org. World Relief Western Washington of Kent is looking for volunteers to work in its Paradise Parking Plots community garden. Paradise Parking Plots is a 2-acre garden that provides spaces for refugee, immigrant, and Kent residents to grow cultural foods and reconnect with the soil. World Relief will train volunteers to do tasks such as weeding its food forest, controlling pests and diseases, and taking part in construction projects. For more information, log on to worldrelief.org/Western-WA and click on the Get Involved page. United Way of King County's free tax preparation campaign is gearing up for another tax season. Funded by United Way, the IRS, and the City of Seattle, United Way's free tax prep service is for individuals who make up to $80,000 a year or up to $96,000 for non-single filers. United Way tax prep specialists help clients understand their tax situations and take advantage of benefits such as the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Working Families Tax Credit. In 2025, United Way served 18,200 of our neighbors, helping them access more than $16 million in tax credits and refunds. United Way tax sites will open on January 25th, but currently we are seeking volunteers for more than 20 free tax prep locations throughout King County, including sites at the downtown Seattle Library and at South Center Mall, as well as our virtual tax site. Volunteers are fully trained and IRS certified. To sign up, log on to uwkc.org/taxvolunteer. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.